China and the Solomon Islands have signed a deal on police cooperation, fueling unease in the West about Beijing's growing influence in the South Pacific. Prime Minister Manasseh Sogavare met with Chinese President Xi Jinping and Premier Qiang in Beijing. It's the Solomon leaders' first visit to the country since sealing the controversial security pact with China last year. The two sides have upgraded their relations to a comprehensive strategic partnership, further deepening ties 4 years after the Pacific nation cut diplomatic relations with Taiwan. And the police pact is one of 9 new agreements signed. Premier Lee praised the progress of their bilateral relations as, quote, very fruitful, and described the Solomons' expansion of ties with Beijing as the correct choice. For more, Lo Minmin joins us live. She's in Shanghai. Minmin, this police cooperation deal, what can you tell us about it? And more specifically, what's it going to mean for both China and the Solomon Islands?
We don't have details of what this policing agreement really entails, but we know it is part of 9 areas of cooperation that the two countries had inked today. Very comprehensive areas ranging from technology, trade, economy, civil aviation, and sports. Beijing is agreeing to help build a stadium in the Solomon Islands in time for the country to host the Pacific Games this year. And earlier, we know that China's telecom giant Huawei has already agreed to help build cellular network with a $66 million loan from the China Export-Import Bank. And a Chinese state company is also helping to redevelop a port in the Solomon Islands. Now, the two countries' bilateral relations have really been on a fast track since the Solomon Islands switched diplomatic allegiance from Taiwan to China in 2019. And on Monday, Premier Lee had called the Solomon Islands a good friend and a good brother. President Xi himself said today that both China and the Solomon Islands are developing countries and they should strengthen mutual assistance through the prism of South-South cooperation. He said that China's policy towards the Pacific Island nations are based on the principles that respect the sovereignty and independence of these countries regardless of their sizes. And China will always uphold the principle of equality, of mutual consultation and win-win cooperation. It would respect the wishes and the cultural traditions of these island nations.
Well, as it stands, Minmin, China's expanded relations with the Solomons, that's fueled unease within the United States. How could this ongoing tussle, perhaps, for influence in the Pacific play out between these two big superpowers?
The U.S. is going to view this with some concern because remember in 2019, 4 years ago, when China and the Solomon Islands established a security pact, there was worries that this could lead to Chinese military presence in the Solomon Islands just not too far off the coast of Australia. That's why we see the U.S. reopening its mission in the Solomon Islands this February after a 30-year hiatus because the U.S. doesn't want these smaller Pacific Island countries to be drawn too far into Chinese orbit, especially with an increasing number of countries switching allegiance from Taiwan to China. The Solomon Islands isn't the only one. Kiribati is another island that did so in 2019. There are also fears of possible economic coercion because of the power imbalance there with the loans that China is giving out and the debt burden that could result on the Solomon Islands. But the Solomon Islands Prime Minister had said that his country is remaining neutral. They're looking out for their own national interests. Analysts say that the Solomon Islands will play this geostrategic rivalry to its own advantage, and it would be open to receiving aid from the United States as well.
Minmin, thank you for that. Lo Minmin there reporting for us live from Shanghai.